Hello, this is Manuel, and in this video I want to show you something I've been thinking about for a little while now. It's having to do with just progression in your career and the different levels. And I'm using something I found through one of the companies that I was working for. This has to do with what's called the Business Systems Analyst, but I think you can use it for many different types of other analysts because it focuses on four different competencies, right, that I think are core to any analyst role. And yeah, let's go through this. As you can see, especially in big companies, you'll see there's essentially four levels. I've seen it where there are even 5 up to 6 levels, but at that point you're pretty much being a manager, I would say. But it's just that they don't have that position available, so they're going to give you this 6 level, right? But these are the four main ones that you'll usually find out there in most companies. It goes from one through four. So let's go through it. And there's four main competencies here: requirements elicitation, so how do you gather the requirements; requirements management and analysis, right? So once you gather them, what do they mean, and how do you document them correctly; creating a compelling business case, which is also very important because you can write these lists all day, but if it's not comprehensible to your stakeholders, then there's no use of building, that kind of list. And then accurate projects effort estimates, right, which is how to track, how to communicate these, all of this documentation that you're doing, right, and the project itself. So let's go one by one. At a BSA level 1, you're essentially maybe a new hire, new to this career path. You're just getting to know the ropes. So what they want you to do, start doing, is really just understand how to effectively interview, right? Elicitation skills, how to, like I mentioned, interview, how to get on a Teams meeting, record the meeting, and extract the list, right, of different items that the business was talking about. What are their problems, right? And they're also asking you to try and prioritize the requirements, right? To understand, okay, according to this user, according to this team, here are the most important items that we need to focus on, right? And then you keep going to requirements management and analysis, which is, as I mentioned, defining documentation and overall management of these requirements, right? As you build the list, you have to check with your interview, with your past notes. Okay, is this exactly what they were talking about, right? Because you're translating it too from their language to an IT language, or perhaps to a legal language, or to a finance language, right? Or you're going to be sending this list to a vendor, right, through a RFP. So you have to make sure that you've outlined these requirements correctly, right, before you do it. And always get an approval, like, of, okay, is this the what's called the to be state, right, or the future state that this system should look like, the project should deploy, right? And so that goes to the next part. Like I said, clearly articulates the impact of business problems and benefits using business language. So just like I said, if it's marketing, it has to be marketing language. If it's IT language, right? It has to equate to who your audience is. Accurate projects and effort estimates, creates, manages, and meets project effort. So again, you're not an expert in project management maybe at this point, unless you are a project manager who's being brought on as an analyst, right? I see that. The developer themselves as well. Sometimes they make this quick transition over to analyst position. So you need to learn how how this project management life cycle goes, and do the different methodologies to it, right? Okay, moving on to level 2, and I'm gonna kind of keep this like in this frame so you guys start seeing the differences, right? At the level 2 is when you start making some decisions on your own. You have to be a little bit independent, right? You're not looking towards the business for every decision. You know the system, you know the company a little better, industry, so you should be able to make some decisions without their explicit help, right? So you uncover needs and value drivers. You can articulate and incorporate other business knowledge areas, right? Because you know it now. So you paint a better picture than what you did before, right? When you're obtaining requirements, you can add in some things that maybe the users or managers didn't even know, right? Prioritize business requirements based on needs, right? The complexity. So at this point, you should know, okay, this particular requirement is going to be a little harder than that one. This other requirement or list is going to take us 2 weeks, while this other list is going to take us maybe 4 weeks, right? And so then you can start placing that list of importance a little better, right? So the business understands, look, if you want this done in 2 months, here's the path I think you should take. If you're willing to wait a few more weeks, then you can go this path, right? And then yes, so creating the business case itself, right? Now you can start incorporating actual financials. So if you know some financials, here is where at this level you start incorporating them, how they're going to oh boy, I'm sorry about the background noise here, how these project is going to make the change, right? And I'm sorry, I'm going to wait until this passes. I'm outside okay, here we go. Yeah, so and also about strategy, right? So as you're going to see as we go up the levels, strategy, overall business processes is going to be how you differentiate yourself, right, from these levels. Finally, engage stakeholders in estimation project. Like I mentioned, you'll know about time, value, impact, right, versus just getting things done. You'll know how it affects us time-wise and cost-wise. Okay, the last 2 levels here, like I mentioned now, is pretty much at this more strategic level. At this point, you are starting to mentor other analysts. You're starting to be a trusted knowledge expert in the business, right? Because you more or less know how everything connects to each other, the other different departments, right? So you see the difference, right? It's just another level of strategy and decision making. You're also becoming a person who advocates for projects, who prepares material for, let's say, the manager, the business owner of a particular project, so that they explain it to the executive management or other managers in the company, right? As you can see, and costs. Because you know and understand the business process flow, the value chain, right? You know what will be affected in this value change and what might be possible outcomes economically speaking. So you also state those implications, right? Also at a industry, if you work especially for a big company, you'll understand that by making this change in this process, you might be making some sort of strategic change that's going to have a pretty big impact, right, in the industry level, right? And of course, communication, and always keeping all of this at the forefront of everybody who's involved, right, in these projects in the mind. Now, remember, you're not the one who says go or no go. You always want to get approval at any of these levels, right? Because you're not the CEO, you're not the manager. You're still a business analyst, right? Which You know, it is interesting. You're a business analyst. You don't hold the title of a manager. You don't hold the title of a product manager, you know, project manager, but you still get to influence people, right? That's one of your biggest strengths as well, as in terms of core skill levels, is how well you can communicate and influence people to have them go to the next level, right? Do the next step, give you the information that you need. So hopefully this helps you out to understand where you are, right, and what skill sets you might still need to go to the next level. All right, hopefully this is helpful, and I'll talk to you in the next one.